Hey all, Tom Moran here from Tom's Big Spiders. This is going to be a special episode in which I'm going to reveal 9 of the most obscure or uncommon tarantulas I keep. This topic has been requested many times by YouTube listeners and podcast followers, and I actually just did the podcast version of it. So this is the video version, which I think will be a little stronger only because you'll get to see visuals of some of the beautiful spiders I'm talking about. Now, to be clear, this isn't a list of the most expensive tarantulas. That's something different because a lot of the tarantulas that come into the hobby, they're expensive at first because they're, well, rare and very sought after. But what happens is after they're bred a few times and we get more slings into the hobby, those prices tend to come way, way, way down. So we're not looking at that. We're looking at ones that have been in the hobby for quite some time. Some of these guys have been in it for over a decade, but we just don't see them offered very often. So with the spiders on this list, we're looking at ones that you may see offered, go, hey, what are these guys? Not take a chance on them and unfortunately miss out on an awesome tarantula. So to make very clear, this isn't a top 10 list, more just a list of some of the ones I have in my collection that folks should be aware of that you might want to check out if they're available again, and hopefully they will be. I know some of the ones on this list I have adults of, and I will be grabbing slings if I ever find any. So enough of me talking, let's get on to the actual video. Okay, first up on our list, we have the elusive Larrognathus Crotalis, a fossorial species that I picked up in February 2016 from Tom Patterson. We say elusive because, as you will see here, these clips are used from another video because when I went to shoot this one, I could not catch her out. She is a very shy spider, being a fossorial species. But with fossorial species, the trick is you may not see them a lot, but when you do see them, it makes it all worthwhile. Now, this is a medium-sized Indian species, and as you'll notice in a minute, they have those thick back legs for burrowing. Mine has constructed, both times had constructed a vertical burrow, which is something kind of unusual for some of the fossorial spiders, and she would blast up out of the vertical burrow to grab prey, which I always found very cool. Now, again, the colors are not the bright, fancy colors that people like, the blues, the orange, and green, but as you can see, it's a very sleek, cool-looking spider, and when you do catch it out, it's such a treat. Now, as far as availability, unfortunately, I have yet to see these guys up for sale since picking up this one. I'm not sure if some people have had them in or not. Hopefully, Tom Patterson breeds them again and we get more of them in the future, because for folks who like fossorial species and who like to keep something a little more obscure and unusual, these should definitely be on the radar. Now, I currently have my girl housed in an 8 by 8 by 12 inch deep glass terrarium, of which she's constructed one tunnel going all the way down. And if I'm lucky and patient, I can sometimes catch her little feet hanging out in the entrance. But for the most part, she stays hidden, and that's okay. But I know she'll pop up again eventually, and hopefully I'll be able to grab some shots of her. Next up on the list, we have one of my all-time favorites, the Ukraticellus Pacipus, or the stout-legged baboon. In 2013, I picked up 2 juveniles of this African fossorial species after finding that they appeared on the majority of Best Beginner Old Worlds, and was immediately struck by how gentle and laid back they were. The rehousings went wonderfully well, very slow-moving spider overall, and that's the general consensus that I read about them at that time. Since then, they put on a lot of size, and they are now adults, probably around 3.5 inches or so kind of a dwarfish species. But one of their greatest attributes, I think, besides that giant pill-shaped booty, are those thick back legs that always kind of reminded me of a satyr or the Greek mythological character Pan for some reason. I can't get over that comparison. But just such cool looking spiders. And although they are fossorial, and although I don't see them all that much, I do catch them out and about occasionally. You kind of have to sneak up on them. And that's what happened here, is I caught this one out and about and just so happened to drop a cricket in to see if I could keep it out for a little photo shoot. And she obliged, which was fantastic because I don't have a whole heck of a lot of footage of these guys. But as you can see, they're adorable, and the temperament has been fantastic from day one. Again, the smallest one I picked up was about 1.5 inches when I got her, and again, very shy, but no defensive behavior whatsoever. And when I catch them out and about, the worst case scenario, they kind of freeze for a second and they slowly climb into their burrows. Now, speaking of those burrows, they do have the vertical burrows, much like the species before this on the list, and they will use those large, powerful back legs to burst out of the burrows to grab prey. And I caught this on camera once years ago, and then, like an idiot, deleted the footage, but it was amazing. It was almost like watching the great white sharks breach the water because the cricket was there, it triggered that webbing, and this spider just blasted out of that vertical burrow, grabbed the cricket, was back in a blink of an eye. Unfortunately, these guys are very rare. I've yet to see slings offered, and part of the problem was when they came to the hobby, there were no males, which really kind of stinks because nobody was able to breed them. Apparently, the males look so different that when they were collecting them in the wild, nobody was grabbing the males because they thought it was a different species. So unfortunately, we don't see them, but if anybody ever sees these guys for sale, please let me know. Buy some yourself. Let Tom from Tom's Big Spiders know because I would love to buy more. This is definitely a species we need more of in the hobby. Next up, we have a spider that has immediately become one of my favorites due to its coloration, the Theraphosania species pura. When I picked these guys up, there wasn't a whole heck of a lot about them. I got them from Fear Not Tarantulas, and it was when I was trying to grab some new and interesting species, and boy, did I get a good one with this one. I was led to believe that this Peruvian species was a dwarf, but the male matured out at about 3.5, 3 3/4 inches, and the female that you also see here is over 4 inches already. So a medium-sized spider overall, and I suspect she's not done growing yet. This was an elusive species when it was smaller. The slings rarely ventured out, but they ate well, grew quickly overall, and I was absolutely shocked and delighted when the male matured out and I had this bright green gangly spider in front of me. I have a thing for green spiders. There just aren't enough out there. Like, that's one of my favorites as far as colorations are concerned. And this guy was just popping. And the best surprise was when the female molted the next time. And not only did I find out it was indeed a lady, but she also sported those green tones. Now, I'm not sure if they lose some of that as they put on more size. Sometimes the females will tend to mature and lose those colors. But I'll tell you right now, as you can see, she is stunning. So she is out in the open all times now, as is the male. Obviously, I have a boy, I have a girl. The boy is much smaller than the girl, so I'm thinking there is going to be some pairing in the future. I would really love to see more of these guys on the market. But overall, just an amazing spider, not only with appearance, but also with its feeding response, growth rate, the fact that they're out and about. And come on, how can you argue against a green spider? So this is one of those ones that you see pop up every so often, but they're definitely not readily available, at least here in the States. I don't know about other countries. Feel free to chime in the comments if you guys have more of them out there. But I would love to see these guys more available. Quite frankly, I'm hoping that when people see pictures of mine, they'll recognize this as a beautiful spider that they need to own. And the next time they're out and about, people grab some up and hopefully start breeding them. So what spider looks like a Brachypelma but hunts like a Phormictopus? Well, that would be my Crypsodromus species Costa Rica, or Panama Black Amelia. I adore this spider. One of the coolest things I've ever picked up. I picked this one up in March of 2018 as a sling, not knowing all that much about it. At that time, it was a tiny little spiderling with a great feeding response. From day one, this one was a voracious eater and enjoyed a medium growth rate overall. As you can see here, she's put on quite a bit of size and looks like a beautiful young adult female. Common name is due to the resemblance to the Brachypelma amelia, which you can see here. The big exception is that this species forms a black triangle on the carapace. You can see just a little darkness forming around the eyes of mine up there. Hopefully that will darken up as she matures. Now, right now, she's about 3.5 inches, and she is always out and about. Quite a bold spider overall, not easily spooked. She's one of the few I can count on that if I open the enclosure and she's in her burrow, she will actually come out of the burrow, almost seemingly waiting for me to drop food in, which I find to be adorable. And as you can see from the beginning of this video, man, can they hunt. She is a voracious hunter. I think you get programmed when you keep species that kind of resemble Brachypelma that they're going to be a little more dainty in their eating habits. I have watched this one sprint across an enclosure, wrestle down a cricket not much smaller than its own body size, and take it down into a corner and eat. It's just amazing to watch. And I think part of it is the fact that she comes across as so calm and cute, but man, there's some killer instinct in there. Now, I will freely admit that some of the species on this list are going to be a matter of taste, and some people aren't going to be interested in them. However, this is one of those species that I firmly believe that if we establish them more in the hobby, they could become a hobby staple. One of those ones that everybody's grabbing up, like the Grammostolas, the Brachys, the Aphonopelmas, the Lasiodoras, you name it. This could be one of the ones that a lot of people seek out. So let's get them in the hobby, let's breed them, and let's see more of these guys about. And coming up next, we have the Katamiriparvum, which I picked up my first two in October of 2017 as little teeny tiny slings. They immediately burrowed, but they ate well, they grew quickly, and unfortunately my first two matured out as males within about 18 months or so. So this is a fast-growing dwarf species. Now I think some people are turned off by them as a result of the brownish coloration, which I hope you can see here is a little more than just brown. There are some metallic bronzy tones in there, but also due to their size, but it's a shame they're overlooked because they are such cool spiders. Now, the one being showcased in this video is an adult female. I picked her up from Fear Not Tarantulas last year in hopes of breeding with one of my males. Unfortunately, after two pairings, she ended up molting out and the male had already passed away. So I'm really still bummed about that because I'd love to see more of these guys in the hobby. Hopefully I get to try again in the future. We'll see how that goes. Now, although this is technically a fossorial species and they did a lot of burrowing early on, I will say that my female is out and about quite a bit. She ventures out from her burrow and I see her, as you can see here, she will roam around. She's one of the few spiders I got that'll also explore and come up and sometimes try to just wander out of her enclosure, which I find to be absolutely adorable. So she's definitely got a bit of personality and likes to explore. So if you're looking for a cool dwarf species, again, they don't take up all that much space on the shelf, which makes them great. I would definitely check out the Parvum. You do see them offered every once in a while, but unfortunately the slings generally go rather quickly and you don't see them again for a bit. So make sure you keep your eyes open, and if you see them available, grab some up. Now here we have one of the coolest spiders I have, my Vitalius peronensis, or Brazilian brown bird eater. I picked these guys up in February of 2016. I had two slings. One molted out a male in 2018 and has since passed. This here is the female, and unfortunately this spider has two modes. One is to cower and hide, the other is to go berserk and run around her enclosure. She started off when she was younger, fossorial, but she would come out of her burrow quite a bit and was one of the few spiders I had that when I would open the top of the enclosure and go to grab a prey item, she would come out of her burrow and sometimes sit right on the lip of the enclosure. We have video of it somewhere with Billy and I talking about this, and she came right out to greet us. It was kind of a unique behavior from her because most of my fossorial species retreat into their burrows, and I always thought that was cute. However, after her last molt, she kind of had a behavior switch and now she's kind of berserk. So luckily she was calmly sat here for me and didn't bolt around the container, but I didn't get the greatest footage of her. But as you can see, gorgeous spider, earthy tones, love those stripes and those bands. Just, she's a darker coloration after she molts and then kind of dulls out a little bit, and I got a funny feeling if you look at the size of her booty there, and she hasn't eaten lately, there is a molt in her very near future, and hopefully we'll be able to see some of those colors. There's also some pinkish hairs that didn't quite show up as well as I was hoping on camera, but it's a beautiful spider that unfortunately I don't think I was able to do justice with here. Medium-sized species that gets to be about 5 or 6 inches or so, and just a totally cool spider, especially for those that like more of the earthy tones. Next up on the list is a species that I often confuse with my V. peronensis, only because I've had them about the same time, and generally when I rehouse one, I rehouse another. They're kind of like sisters in my mind. I don't know, it's weird. But the Lazio dorites polycuspellatus I picked up on April 2016. The common name for this one is a Peruvian blonde, and you can see why here with those, again, those earthy tones. Almost reminds me once again of an Acanthus species. Now this one always ate well for me, but grew rather slowly. She started off being rather shy, but would come out every once in a while and I'd catch her out and about. Now she is out all the time and is quite spunky and skittish. And this is one of the few spiders I actually have to worry about escaping. But she eats great, awesome looking spider. And again, one that I think could honestly be a hobby staple if there were more of them around. Now, she will be getting a rehousing soon in which she will get a much larger enclosure and some more room to dig, so we'll see maybe if that elicits more of the burrowing response and calms down her behavior. But even if she stays flighty and skittish, I still love her. As far as availability is concerned, I have seen people selling slings over the course of the years, but they usually sell out quickly and you don't find them for a while, again, at least here in the States. Now, if you happen to notice some of these for sale at your local vendor, I would definitely snatch some up because they are likely to not last very long. This is an in-demand species and one that a lot of people are looking for, so they tend to get snatched up very quickly when they're put up for sale. All right, up next we have the Acanthus curia, musculosa, or Brazilian or Bolivian black velvet. I picked this one up as a sling in July of 2018. It was about 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch, and I had it in a little dram vial. However, it burrowed, but it ate like a machine, and not only did it molt frequently, but put on a lot of size with each molt, and I was actually surprised with how quickly it outgrew that dram vial and had to be rehoused. It is still eating like a machine. This is a fantastic eater, and it has abandoned its burrow and has been out in the open for quite some time now, which is great because it is a beautiful little spider. Now, I've often wondered about the common name of this one, which is black velvet, as the majority of pictures I've seen show a spider that's more of a brownish color, even a brownish red. However, when I posted up my podcast about this topic, listener Rami Kajala posted that there are some people that believe that the musculosa sold in the hobby may be a mislabeled A. insubtilis, which I'd actually be okay with, as my insubtilis that I had many, many years ago died from DKS, and I was never able to find another obscure species, as a matter of fact. So either way, we'll keep an eye on it. I will see if I can find that information to double check to make sure that I do indeed have the musculosa. Regardless, though, both are awesome spiders. Both are rather obscure, so if you see either of them out, grab them up. And finally, we come to the last species on this list that for folks that have watched Tom's Big Spiders for a while, it probably should come as no surprise because I've been championing them for many years. That would be the Cerakopelma species, Santa Catalina. I picked mine up from Tom Patterson in February of 2017. At that time, it was about a 3-inch juvenile, and immediately was impressed by not only the look of this animal, but by its feeding response. It ate great, it grew quickly, and can we take a minute to talk about the colors? I was glad I was able to capture them on the camera because a lot of folks think these guys are brown. There's more of an orangey tone to them, which kind of reminds me of the orangey Brachypelma species, and I absolutely adore the look of them. They are also large spiders, with this one about 7.5 inches so far. She's a big, leggy girl. I can't understand why they are overlooked because I think they're every bit as beautiful as some of the Phormictopus species, the Pamphobedius species that are out there and highly sought after, those big tropical terrestrial tarantulas that everybody loves for their fast growth rate and great feeding response. Just a unique and gorgeous spider, and one that I've featured quite a bit over the years because very much like my beloved genus Phormictopus, I think more people should check these out. Now, there are other Cerakopelma species out there, and believe me, I'm on the lookout and plan to pick some up because I do love those big, beefy terrestrials. And the good news about these guys is I have seen slings available quite a bit as of late. They tend to sell out very quickly, and I do tend, when they come out, I do alert people that they are out because I know a lot of people are seeking these spiders, which is great because we need more of them in the hobby. Again, this should be one that's one of those intermediate staples that people go, all right, now I want to move up to something a little more feisty, a little larger. I'm going to either get a Lazio Phormictopus or maybe a Cerakopelma species, and I'd love to see that in the future. But awesome spiders, definitely ones you need to check out and pick up, especially if you like the larger terrestrials. So I hope you enjoyed that. Maybe saw some species that you keep, maybe saw some species that you're like, oh my gosh, I had an opportunity to buy that and you didn't. Sorry. Moving ahead, I will probably do an update video on it because I have other species now, but they're just teeny tiny slings that are also rather obscure or uncommon. I just didn't want it to be a whole video of looking at teeny tiny brown slings, which is kind of boring. These are some of the ones I've kept for a while that I have some experience with and that I could actually do husbandry videos on, and ones that I think people should be aware of and looking for in case they come out again. Now, I just want to wish everybody out there a happy and safe new year. Again, this is kind of a special New Year's edition. I wanted to get one more video out before we put a bullet in 2020 because boy, did it suck. Hopefully 2021 will be better for everybody else. There seems to be some light at the end of the tunnel, at least as far as the pandemic's concerned, and the light does not appear to be a train, thank God. So let's all hope everybody out there has a great and happy new year and an amazing 2021. I don't know about you guys, but I want to get out to the movies again. I want to hit some concerts. I'm dying to hit some concerts, and I'm sure everybody else there wants to go out and mingle, see family and friends. Heck, I'm not a very social person. I want to be with a lot of people right now. So that'll do it for this one, last one of 2020. Here's to 2021. You guys all have a great one, and let's close it out the way we usually do. As always, if you want to check out some of my videos and see what I'm about, it'll be over here. If you'd like to subscribe, very much appreciated. Click the little circle up there. Please leave a comment. I love getting comments. I respond to all comments, and I've been doing it much more quickly lately, so you'll get a proper response. Guys, have a happy new year. We'll catch you next year.